Hey man, have you ever wondered why so many good men are staying single these days? Not because they can't find women, not because they don't want love, but because they've learned the painful truth. The modern dating game isn't built for men who lead with honesty, loyalty, and depth. It's built for entertainment, for attention, for validation. And after being burned one too many times, after being betrayed, manipulated, or discarded by women who confused real love with emotional games, men are choosing peace over partnership. They're not bitter, they're just tired. Tired of fighting for connections that don't exist anymore. See, a man doesn't wake up one day and decide to stay single. He gets there slowly, through years of disappointment, through being replaced by someone with more followers, ghosted by women who swore they cared, ignored when he showed sincerity, and used when he showed kindness. Every heartbreak teaches him the same brutal lesson. The more real he is, the more disposable he becomes. And after enough lessons, something inside him changes. He stops chasing, he stops proving, he stops trying to convince anyone of his value. He chooses silence, because silence hurts less than betrayal. Women will say, there are no good men left. But what they don't realize is, the good men are still here, they just stopped playing the game. They're the ones who used to care deeply, but learned that vulnerability isn't appreciated anymore. It's exploited. They learned that effort isn't romanticized, it's ridiculed. They learned that consistency isn't attractive, it's boring. And so they pulled away. Not out of hate, not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. Because in today's world, the more a man gives, the faster he's drained. The truth is, modern women have killed men's desire to try. Not intentionally, but through a culture that rewards attention over affection and validation over loyalty. We live in an era where a woman's phone gives her instant access to endless male validation, likes, DMs, compliments, offers. So when a man comes along and offers genuine affection, it doesn't stand out anymore. It feels ordinary. She's numb to it. And when she finally realizes how rare it was, it's always too late. Most men today have been through silent heartbreaks that no one talks about. They've been ghosted after months of connection. They've been blamed for emotions they never caused. They've been compared to men they never met. And they've been told to man up while dealing with emotional wounds that go unseen. Over time, that kind of pain changes you. It doesn't make you colder, it makes you wiser. You stop trying to fix people who don't want to be healed. You stop trying to prove your love to people who don't even love themselves. Women often ask, why don't men open up anymore? The answer is simple, because every time a man did, it was used against him. He opened up once, and she called him weak. He shared his fears, and she lost attraction. He showed vulnerability, and she told her friends. That kind of betrayal rewires a man's brain. He learns that his emotions are weapons that can be turned against him, and so he buries them. He stops talking, he stops trusting, and he chooses solitude, not because he hates women, but because it's safer there. There's a silent generation of men walking around with hearts full of love and minds full of scars. They could give everything, loyalty, devotion, protection, but they won't. Because experience has taught them that in this modern age, effort is currency that loses value fast. One wrong move, one bad day, and a woman will replace him like an app on her phone. And that kind of disposability kills something sacred in a man. It kills his desire to give himself fully ever again. Women love to talk about high-value men, but most of them wouldn't recognize one if they met him, because a high-value man doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't perform for attention. He builds, he provides, he leads quietly. And that kind of energy doesn't fit into today's dopamine-driven dating culture. Modern women confuse attention with value. They think the loudest man in the room is confident, not realizing that the calm one in the corner is the one who could change their life. The truth is, modern men aren't emotionally unavailable, they're emotionally disciplined. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their softness. They've learned that peace is more fulfilling than constant emotional chaos. Because let's be honest, modern dating has become psychological warfare. It's not about connection anymore, it's about control. And men are finally walking off the battlefield. So when women ask, why are so many men single? The answer is painful, but simple. Because they stop believing in the fantasy. They stop chasing illusions sold by social media. They stop believing that effort alone guarantees love, because it doesn't, not anymore. Today, a man can love a woman with everything he has and still be replaced by someone who entertains her boredom better. That realization breaks something deep inside a man, and once it breaks, he never loves the same way again. The modern dating landscape is built on manipulation, ghosting, breadcrumbing, situationships, and emotional detachment. It's a playground for avoidance and attention seekers, and men who crave depth don't survive in that playground for long. They either adapt, becoming emotionally detached themselves, or they leave entirely, and most of them choose the second option, because being alone hurts less than being misunderstood by someone who doesn't value loyalty anymore. Here's the part women don't want to admit: they created the very men they now complain about. The emotionally unavailable men, the players, the detached ones. They weren't born that way, they were built. They were once emotional, open-hearted men who got punished for caring. And after enough punishment, they learned to play the same game. The irony is cruel. Women created the walls they now can't climb. The average man today doesn't hate women, he just doesn't trust them. Not because he's been hurt once, but because he's been hurt repeatedly for being real. He's learned that being honest gets you ghosted, being kind gets you manipulated, and being loyal gets you taken for granted. And once a man sees that pattern enough times, he stops participating. Not because he's afraid of love, but because he's afraid of wasting it. This is why men are staying single, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because peace is addictive, freedom is clarity, solitude is healing. Once a man finds that inner stillness, the constant drama, confusion, and manipulation that come with modern relationships stop being appealing. He starts realizing that his time, his focus, his emotional energy, they are sacred, and giving them away carelessly is the same as self-destruction. But here's the dark irony: women notice men like that. They notice the calm, grounded, emotionally disciplined man. They feel drawn to him because he radiates control. But by the time they notice him, he's already detached. He doesn't need validation anymore. He doesn't need to prove anything. And that calm confidence is what drives them crazy, because it's the one kind of attention they can't control. Women will blame men for not trying, but they'll never take accountability for making men stop. They'll say, he's cold, without realizing that warmth dies when it's unreciprocated. They'll say, he's distant, not understanding that distance is a defense mechanism. Because every time a man cared, it cost him. Every time he gave, it was wasted. Every time he loved deeply, it was thrown away. So now, he protects what's left, his peace. The reason men are single isn't because they don't want women. It's because they don't want to lose themselves trying to please one. They've learned that most modern relationships are built on conditions, not commitment. Love me as long as I feel like it. Stay as long as it's fun. Be loyal until I get bored. And men who crave depth, loyalty, and stability can't thrive in that kind of shallow soil. So they walk alone, not because they're broken, but because they refuse to settle for something fake. Women have mistaken a man's silence for indifference, but it's actually exhaustion. He's not cold, he's cautious. He's not detached, he's discerning. He's not afraid of love. He's afraid of giving his love to the wrong person again, because he knows that in today's world, genuine effort gets mistaken for weakness, and emotional investment gets rewarded with betrayal. And when a man learns that lesson the hard way, he never forgets it. There's a reason so many men are rediscovering solitude. It's because peace is intoxicating once you've been drained by emotional chaos. When you finally sit in silence and realize no one is lying to you, manipulating you, or using you, it's euphoric. You start realizing that solitude isn't loneliness, it's self-respect. It's freedom from the emotional roller coaster of modern dating. And once a man experiences that, he rarely goes back. Modern women will eventually feel the effects of this shift, because the more men pull away, the more they'll start to notice the difference between attention and intention. They'll start missing the men who showed up, who cared, who tried, but those men will be gone. Not dead, not bitter, just unavailable. Emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Because when men finally realize their worth, they stop offering discounts. And make no mistake, those same women who took genuine men for granted will eventually chase the very thing they destroyed. They'll long for the emotional stability of a man who doesn't play games, but by then, he'll be out of reach. Because men who learn peace don't go back to chaos. They don't re-enter the storm they escaped from. They keep walking, calm and detached, while everyone else scrambles for validation. The sad reality is, many men still love women deeply. They just don't trust them to love the same way. They want connection, but not at the cost of their sanity. They want passion, but not at the price of their peace. And that's why they stay single. Because they've learned that not every connection is worth their energy, and not every woman is ready for the kind of love they have to give. So, when people say men don't commit anymore, they're missing the truth. Men do commit. They just commit to themselves now. They commit to growth, to discipline, to purpose. They commit to becoming the man no one can manipulate, the man no one can break, the man who chooses peace over pressure. And that kind of man is rare, not because he doesn't exist, but because he refuses to waste his energy proving it anymore. One day, women will realize the consequences of this imbalance. They'll miss the men who sent good morning texts, the men who listened, the men who protected and provided, the men who wanted something real. But those men will be long gone, living quietly, peacefully, far away from the chaos they once tried to love. Because men don't stop loving, they just stop trying. So remember this, men aren't staying single because they hate women. They're staying single because they finally understand their value. They've learned that love without respect is manipulation, and connection without effort is emptiness. They've stopped chasing fantasy and started choosing peace. And the irony? That's when women finally start wanting them back, when it's too late. Because nothing attracts like absence, and nothing hurts more than realizing that you were the reason a good man gave up on love.